I'm waiting on purpose. So, good morning. This is Justice for America. I'm Jim Moore, your host, and it is October 3rd, 2023, and this is episode number 64. The reason that I'm delaying here is we recently moved, and so we're still working through some bugs as far as the internet goes in our coverage. It seems like we have a whole lot better coverage, but yeah, so we had a whole bunch of problems yesterday, but we're glad that you tuned in again today. Shane, God bless you. Nice to have you. We're going to be dealing with a number of super important issues today. Of course, they're always important, right? I say that every time, but I hope you're able to follow through after the program today and listen to the good morning. There's my love of my life, Linda, and there's Isaiah. God bless you. Christ Ambassadors, nice to have you. So I hope you're able to follow through today and listen to at least a couple of the videos that we post. It's pretty normal for people not to ever get back and say, I listened to this one, it really ministered to me, or thank you so much for that. Sometimes they do, and I not that we have to have that or anything, but it is nice to know once in a while. So but I pray that you do. Debbie Fisher, Linda, God bless you. Nice to have you again on the program. You need to text me. I want to ask some questions. Anyway, it's a good day today, and I hope you can hear all right. And we're going to jump right into these things. Now, I didn't think I was going to have a lot of things to share with you this morning because we've been super busy moving all week. As you could see, all of these are boxes that need to be unpacked. I'm sitting in my little cubicle of unpacked boxes. Literally, if I were to show you, it's made up of unpacked boxes. So, what it turned out is I actually had quite a few, but there are, I think, three of them that I am going to seriously, with great ethos, place upon you to watch them. They're super, super important, and thanks, Deb. And I think the reason they are is something that I said the other day on the program, that it's so easy to forget. We live in the day and age where it's the day of the news cycle. So the news cycle will go just a few days, maybe a couple weeks if it's really a big issue, or if you're Donald Trump, it'll go forever, for eternity. But then we tend to forget stuff. And when those people who have done evil things, immoral things, or whether intentionally or maybe without fully recognizing, hey Cheryl, nice to have you, and there is Stella, nice to have you as well. When people do that and they kind of want to sweep it under the rug, well, what do? Well, let's put this new thing out. Let's put this distraction out so that you and I will not remember. Now, sometimes that's just to get out from underneath guilt, the guilt of the perpetrator. Other times it's so that we can become kind of desensitized and have it all happen again. We see that happening on a number of stages that are playing out right now. Good morning. All right, so I've got three subjects, yay, more than that, but at least three videos that are must-sees. Now, one of these you will only be able to watch. I could not watch it myself. Typically, I have a Twitter account, but just, I hope Twitter doesn't pick up on this and bounce me, but I actually delete it. I don't keep it on all the time. I don't even keep it in my phone all the time. So I will create an account and I will install it. And then after I'm done using it, I will uninstall it. And I do that for a couple of reasons. Number one is because I have an older, cheaper phone that runs out of room really quick. It's true. And the other thing is I don't like being monitored and tracked and all that. Anyway, I said all that to say, if you don't have a Twitter account, and I'm not trying to push to get people to get a Twitter account. It's now been or X, now it's called X, which I despise. But you won't be able to watch this one. And unless you have a super hardcore moral stance against even creating an account that you can uninstall and get off of, you need to watch this one. Okay, I'll get to that in a minute. But they are truly a masterpiece of remembrance. So one is done by Elon himself, one is done by a fellow I don't know, and then there's one other I don't remember, but they are a collage of things that you cannot afford to not see. Why? Not so much because of, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like they're trying to prove a point, but I think the point that they maybe don't really emphasize, or I don't know how to say that, but the fact that people will tell you what they think you want to hear so that you'll be on their side. Okay? So I am a believer in the Lord Jesus. Most of you know that. I follow him to the best of my ability. Don't always do good. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Okay? But I believe, I love the truth. I want the truth, even if it hurts. Okay? Even if the truth means it, we suffer or we get the ouch. Ultimately, the kingdom of the Lord will be one of 100% transparency. There won't be, he says, that with whom there is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. There are no shadows, there's no deception, there's no fake news, as it were, and so on. So he said, and I'm not going to get preachy, don't worry, but Jesus said, you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. I don't know who doesn't want to be free, unless you just want to be in slavery, you want to be in bondage. You must want to know the truth enough to pursue it. And then he said, I am the truth. Well, that doesn't mean there are not things that are truth, like it's the truth I'm seeing in this room. This room isn't Jesus, okay? But the point is, truth is a person, truth is a man, but truth is also what he says is true, okay? All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That's truth. All right, so anyway, let's jump into this. I want to start out by saying I have a quote here that you can look in the description box. It says, the darkness is growing darker and the light is growing brighter or lighter. Choose this day which side you're going to be on, who you're going to serve, and make sure you're on the right side. So it is going to become more and more distinctive that people are on the side of either light or darkness. We see this playing out in the political arena. We see it actually playing out in the 7 mountain principles, if you believe in that. It's happening in education, it's happening in entertainment, it's happening in government, it's happening in religion. There's a division coming, and God actually said, he said, hey guys, I'm the one that's going to do that. I'm going to let that happen. He's not creating an increase of darkness. He is actually creating an increase of light. Light is getting lighter, dark is getting darker. He doesn't create the increase of darkness, but he permits it. And why? Now again, I'm not trying to preach here, but I want you to understand the reason this is happening, because so many people go, I just don't understand. And it's freaking them out. And you don't need to freak out. He said, I'm going to let the wheat and the tares grow up together. Do not listen to any preacher that tells you otherwise. It's simply not true. Or anybody that tells you otherwise. Okay? I don't mean don't listen to anything they have to say. Okay? Sometimes people will get one issue wrong, but they'll be telling, they're accurate on a whole bunch of other things. So I'm not saying disregard somebody if they don't agree with you in everything. But the Lord Jesus said that. He said it's going to get light and dark. Okay? And I believe the number, well, let me not go into that. So he says, let me just read what he said. He said, so his disciples were asking him about this issue of light and dark. And he said, so his servants, the servants came to him and said, sir, didn't you sow good seed in the field? And he goes on later on to say the good seed are the children, they're people. Good seed are the children of light, and the bad seed are children, or the tares, the weeds, the tares is Old English, it means weeds, are the children. Again, it's important that you understand it's not just issues, it's people, because issues play out through people, right? So we said the good seeds are the children of light who do right, and the tares, the weeds, okay, are the children that do evil, that evil comes through them and they submit to it. And they are asking him, they're saying, why is this happening? Why didn't you put good seed? Didn't you start out with a couple good people, Adam and Eve? And he says, this is what he said. This was his answer to him. And then we'll go to the links. He said, an enemy has done this. So they said, Lord, didn't you sow good seed in the ground? He said, yep, it wasn't me. The enemy sowed the weeds. It wasn't me. Okay? We're always blaming God for stuff that the enemy's doing, or that we do in submission to him. All right? And they said, their response to that was, they said, so do you want us to go and pluck up the weeds? Okay, let's take up. Let's do this. And Jesus said emphatically, no. Now listen, this is really important. He says, do you want us to pull him up? And he said, no, unless perchance while you're attempting to gather up the weeds, he said, I'm not quoting this correctly. Let me read it. He says, but he said, no, while you gather up the weeds, that you will accidentally uproot the wheat or the good seeds with them. And here's the phrase, let both of them grow up together until the harvest. And then he talks about himself and his angels, the angels of God, at the end discerning, at the end dividing. Now, it doesn't mean we don't stand up for truth. That's what this program is about. You have to know what it is you're standing up for before you can stand up for it, right? I mean, it's pretty simple, basic stuff. Sometimes it just goes right over people's heads, and it's pretty amazing. We can so easily miss. But he's saying, but the people, I'm in charge of them. Okay? So my whole point of that is that light and darkness are growing up together. This very first link is Tulsi Gabbard. Now, many of you know who Tulsi is. She is the ex-governor of Hawaii, and many years a Democrat. And don't think that there are people who are, even though, again, we see a division, it's going to be harder and harder for people to embrace what they've embraced before, like politics, like the Democratic Party. I know some of you are going to disagree, but I'm going to say it. And it's not every person or every policy. But by and large, they did what the schools did here a number of years ago. They said, we're not going to have God in our party anymore. We're not going to, alienate other people by talking about God and Pledge of Allegiance and in God we trust and all that. We're not going to do it. As a matter of fact, we're going to try to eliminate that part out. When they did that, I believe that was a turning point, and things have become crazier and crazier, and yes, more and more evil. Not in every case. I know that. Okay, I know that. I understand that. But by and large, it has become the party that is embracing and promoting dark agendas. It's just the truth, okay? And if you want to fight for your political position so much that you're not willing to see that, then I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, so Tulsi was a Democrat, and like a few others, she stepped up and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't, it's gotten so bad, so crazy, so dark, so wrong. I cannot be a part of it anymore. It's not just a political decision. It truly is a moral decision, at least for her, okay? Everyone's different, but I believe for her, from the sincerity of her heart, because I think she is a sincere woman who is a believer, okay, has said, nope, we're not going to do this. So you need to watch this. This is what they call a short, which if you're not familiar with the term, it means that it is short. It'll last very short, very small amount of time. And she's making the statement. She's saying, when we are afraid, and here's super important thing to hear. When we are afraid to stand up, we are the servant of that person we're afraid of. And I know most of us will go, well, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Well, that's not why I do it. I'm not afraid. Okay, that could be the truth. You need to position your heart before God and say, Lord, am I avoiding standing up for what is right because I am afraid of the repercussions from other people? And Tulsi basically says, when you do that, when you pull back because of fear, we're not talking about being an aggressive bonehead, okay? We're just talking about standing up for what's right. It says when you pull back, you become the servant of the one that you are intimidated or fearful about. It's a great thing to watch. Number two. Okay, so number two is one of my first must-sees. Hey, James, how you doing? Cheryl, bless you. Please pay attention to this. This, to me, there's a couple of these on here, 3 of them. One of the best compilations I have to date seen. And it is a compilation of the Great Reset. And I know you're an authority. I know that you've seen it all. You know it all. You could write in your thing everything, and you know, okay, I get it. There's always something you don't know. Watch this. Watch it twice. Understand that Klaus Schwab, his dad, literally, was a servant of the Nazis. He was a Nazi himself. He had a a company that helped build ammunition for the Nazi Party. He was given awards and so on. Klaus he won't call himself a Nazi, but he'll call himself a socialist, very proudly and so on. So you need to watch that one. Super important. It will, again, it's short. It'll give you some stuff that you don't know. All right. Hey, James. Amen. Okay, so he's saying it's hard to hear. If anyone else is having a problem, let me know. The only thing I know I can do any different than what I'm doing right now is I can move my microphone up a little bit. I hope that helps a little, James. All right, number 3. Something that maybe a lot of you don't know about, there's a guy named General Flynn, who's literally an ex-general in the military, straight shooter, tells the truth, probably has drifted off into some inaccurate stuff or speculation at times. Probably most of these guys that are trying to expose darkness have done that. Cut them a break. You're not doing it night and day, so okay, I'm just saying. Anyway, he gave reference to an article from Laura Logan. Now, Laura was a Fox, I believe she was an anchor or a contributor or something. Again, someone who just saw the crazy long enough said, I can't do this anymore. I want to be a real journalist who tells the truth. Okay, and she said, I cannot tell the truth. And you're going to see that in another compilation later on down, where the parroting, and maybe you've already seen it, where these guys, see, sometimes the disconnect is you watch the person on the newscast and you think they're coming up with this stuff. It's them talking. It's not them talking. Okay, you have to understand they get their information from the person above them, their editor or producer, whoever. They get it. They don't create it. They're not all... What a mystery. They're all saying the exact same thing. You know, it's almost like they're all clairvoyant. No, no, it's not that. Okay? So they're getting it. Their producer, manager, whoever it is, they're getting it from someone else. They're getting, sometimes that chain will go up half a dozen people. That's why you can go back and now, thankfully, with AI, you can isolate a phrase and you can have all of these guys saying the exact same word. So Laura's saying, and let me read what Laura said, and I'll tell you what General Flynn and Laura are both talking about. It's something called the North American, and you've probably heard this before, the North American Pact or Treaty. And it's basically, well, let me read you what Laura said. I reported several years ago, again, ex-Fox News caster, I reported several years ago on Fox News that the globalist plan to dissolve America starts with a regional government of America, Canada, and Mexico. Okay, again, it's a plan. Okay, it's no longer a conspiracy. Well, it is a conspiracy. I've identified what that phrase means many times. I'll say it one more time. Hopefully it'll hammer into your brain. A conspiracy is simply when people, 2 or more people, conspire together to do good or evil. It's an amoral term. Even though we think of it as a bad term, it can mean bad or good. I conspire to throw a surprise party for my wife with other people, and boom, we surprised her. Now, once that it happens, we're not conspiring anymore, right? Okay, so a conspiracy is when people conspire to do anything. A theory is when you are not sure. You think you might have found out about something that someone is conspiring to do, but you're not really sure. So it is in the realm of a theory. Hi, Robbie. Nice to have you. Good to be with you the other day. All right, so these people conspired to create a North American pact. North America is not just the United States, it's Canada, the US, and Mexico. A covenant, a pact, an agreement together that they would be a one governing body, all right? Number of plans like this out there, but this is one of them. So I'm reading from what Laura said. Let me start again because I rambled. I reported several years ago on Fox News that the globalist plan to dissolve America starts with a regional government of America, Canada, and Mexico. This was based on first-hand testimony of someone who spent years infiltrating the globalist cult, and she calls it a cult. They are implementing their plan and global rule already while we are still arguing about if it's real or not. Let that sink in. They are implementing the plan while we're still arguing about whether or not it's real. Man, I'll tell you, has that scenario played out so many times. We're all debating, and this is why, the whole conspiracy, there was a time that the phrase conspiracy theory did not exist. It was actually created to help uh, diminish and disparage and cause people to dismiss the idea of something. Yeah, I won't go into all that. Anyway, so she talks about, well, what is it, Jim? Well, it's very simply, it's a pact where heads of state and global leaders are saying, okay, let's have a government. So that's important. I don't want to spend any more time on that, but that's good. Okay, we're going to jump now to the COVID issue. Heather, God bless you. Nice to have you. Now, this is going to continue to be an issue. Why? Okay, because you said, Jim, you keep talking about this. That's because it's important. And what plays into the issue is bigger than just one specific sickness, okay, one disease. This has to do generally with the health and welfare of human beings and the capacity for those who are in power to seize upon that fear, okay, and to use fear to seize upon that issue of health in general in order to control people. Okay, so if they can use a health issue to control people, they will. If they can use a politics, they will. If they can use education, if they can use arts and entertainment, it really doesn't matter. If they can find an issue that they can manipulate the masses by. Now listen, this is not just right now. This has been going on for centuries, perhaps thousands of years, where leaders will go, aha, people will be moved by this. Terrorism is the idea of the ism of terror. We can control people by making them afraid. Do you know that silencing you on the internet is a form of terror? It's fear, okay, to terrify someone. See, sometimes these phrases get used in such a specific way over and over, we forget what they actually mean, okay? So when someone can intimidate and make you fearful, that they're going to cancel you or take away your job or make you a laughing stock or mock you publicly, that's making you, it's terrorizing you, okay? Now, terror is an extreme form of fear. We get that, but you understand. So the issue of COVID, it's now coming to light, and hear me carefully. I want to go on record as saying this. It's come to light that nearly everything that they initially knee-jerk thought about the disease was wrong. How it started, how it will affect the population, and primarily the reason this is true is because they went to extremes, okay? Let's see, they made my sign, yeah, absolutely. All right, so let me explain that real quick. So again, I'm standing on what I heard from the Lord on this. You say, do you hear voices? I hear God talk to me. Yes, I do. He said it's real. You don't have to be afraid of it, but you do have to be aware or careful, okay, about how people respond to it, okay? So it's real. It is a real sickness. I guarantee you that it's real, okay? Yeah, you don't have to be afraid. And the reason you don't have to be afraid of that or any other sickness or disease is because God is your healer. And you won't go off this earth until it's your time to go. So it's not like it is nothing. It's not like it's a nothing burger. Okay, you get the flu, you get cancer, you get a cold. They're all reason to be concerned about your health, right? I mean, we're not being stupid about it, but the idea is you don't have to live in fear. That's what the Lord told me. And then the third one is you are going to have to be not fearful, but, concerned about how people respond. And it was that number 3 that was the big thing. So what happened? How did people respond? They went crazy. Now, crazy, okay, when you're ignorant, when you don't have all the facts, we get that, right? Somebody hears a loud boom and they assume it's a nuclear bomb and they go down to their bomb shelter. Well, it turned out to be, a car backfiring. I mean, when you don't know the truth about something, it is understandable that people might overreact. And we saw some of that in the beginning. However, when during that overreacting, you come to the conclusion that, we're able to control people. Now, if you don't think people that are in authority struggle, actually, many of them don't struggle with it. They submit to it. They want control. They want to be able to make people do what they think they ought to do. It's an empowering thing. It's an egotistical thing. It's a demonic thing. Not everybody who governs has that. Everybody, I think, is challenged by it. And I know I'm going a little deep here, but you're smart. Listen to what I'm saying. Anybody that gets into a position of authority, if they want to do the right thing and actually serve people, that's why Jesus said, he said, when you're in authority, he that would be the greatest among you, he's got to be his servant. You have to determine to do the opposite, and that is serve people, or else you're very likely, almost assuredly, to going to go into the control thing. I'm not serving them, they're now serving me. I'm making them do what I want. So if you're in a position of authority, like the people who run the country, or the world for that matter, other countries and so on, if you don't have a primary objective not to control people, and you see that you can through a health issue, what's going to happen? You're going to seize on it. Now, nearly everything they said about the big C, COVID, has been proven wrong. The jab, how easy you can get it. It's going to wipe out everybody, the human race. Now, if you think I'm exaggerating, you have to watch the next one. I would say this is the must-see of the must-see. Okay? Numero uno. Hey, son, nice to have you. If you don't have time to watch any other one, please watch this one. It's going to open your eyes. It is going to talk a lot about the jab. And if you've already gotten that, it's not intended to give you fear. Actually, just the opposite. It's intended to liberate you to understand, hey, you know what? I'm going to be okay. All right? I have my faith in God. I put my trust in God. He's not going to leave me or forsake me. He controls my life and my death. I'm not afraid of dying. If we are afraid, then we need to go back to the altar and cry out to God and say, Lord, why am I afraid? The scripture talks about that being the greatest of all fears. Anyway, so this one is kind of hard to watch. This doesn't happen very often to me, and I don't want to come off as uber spiritual, but I'm going to be spiritual for a minute. Often, if I encounter a demonic entity, I want you to understand, I believe in the invisible. The Bible says that Jesus, who's God, yes, but it says, by him, he created all things. But are you listening? I'm quoting, both visible and invisible. What is that saying? Jesus created invisible things, okay? It's not a big mystery, it's true. And you can't ignore it away. You can't believe it away. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it or you're not aware of it, it is still true. Now, when I encounter, and I've said this many times, I won't belabor the point, but I've been in large groups of people and said, how many believe in the supernatural realm or the invisible realm? It sounds kind of weird, so a few people raise their hand. I said, well, how many people believe in angels? Everybody raised their hand. I said, well, where do those angels live? Do they live in the visible realm or the invisible? And they're like, oh, now I get it. The light bulb goes on. Okay, so you can't be afraid. But when I encounter a demonic entity, often I will feel nauseous. Okay? It's not the same as when I eat a bad batch of tacos. Okay? I feel it's my spirit. There's a nauseousness. I felt that when I watched this. Not because it's super gross, but because of the excess of demonic influence on the people. So it goes through, and they're starting out. This is where I got the no one is safe. They start out, and you hear person after person after person after person saying, no one is safe, no one is safe. From the president and heads of countries all the way down the food chain, and I mean down the food chain, to the newscasters and so on. Okay? No one is safe. No one is safe. No, and they just kept saying it over and over. Sorry, my dog just came up here. All right? So you have to see it. You have to see it. It's really stunning. Okay? And then they go on to accusing. You're to blame. You're to blame. They could start talking about the jab, the vax. You're to blame. You're to blame. Those who don't have it. You're the enemy. And it's after a while, it's pretty short. It's like 5 minutes long. But after a while, it is overwhelming to remember, because most of you don't watch all of those news agencies, the alphabet news agencies, the legacy news groups, ABC, CBS, NBC, and so on. But they're just over and over hammering this issue home. And it's targeted at people like you, okay? And I know some of you, you were vaxxed, that's fine, okay? I mean, it's fine in the sense that I hope you did it because you felt like God told you to, because ultimately that's how we're going to be judged. We're going to be judged if I make an honest mistake after I've prayed, after I've conquered fear, after I've done all that, then it's just between me and God. But so this is not about making you afraid, but it is about a program. It is about a narrative. It is about we have to control you so badly that we're going to make you the enemy. I wish, hey, Gab, nice to have you. I wish I could show this to you right now and just stop this program, show it to you, because I know a bunch of you, I'm just being honest, a bunch of you won't watch it because you're busy to do something else. But I'm telling you, this is stunning. There are two of these videos here that are both short, yay, three, but especially two of them, and they're right here, back to back, number one and number two, that I wish I could get every human being to watch because it is so eye-opening, okay? So the first one is nobody is safe, and then they go into mocking, and they're blaming, and they're accusing, and they're calling you foolish and an idiot. Some of them are saying you need to go to jail. Some are saying, in comedy, Jimmy Fallon, I think, is one of them, who says, yeah, I mean, if you don't have the jab and you come in to a hospital with a heart attack, if you have it, you come on in. If you don't, well, see you later. Rest in peace. First of all, that's not funny. Okay. Second of all, it would be funny if maybe it weren't true, but it is true. All right. A lot of that now is changing because there is so very much scientific evidence. Actually, a lot of these same people you'll see in this video are not saying that anymore, but they're not apologizing either because that's what people do. Okay, there's a couple out there like Bill Maher, I think is one of them. There's a couple who are skirting on the edges of saying, I was wrong and I apologize. It's a rare thing for anyone in a position of authority or influence, one way or the other, political, media, whatever, to actually admit being wrong. It is the incredible lack of humility is one of the things that as a believer you must embrace. Okay? Now, I like what I heard one person say, I forget who it was, but they say, hey, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. I just am never wrong. Now, okay, so we don't do that either, right? Okay. Anyway, please, if you can only watch one, watch this. If you can only watch two, watch this second one. That is also a collage. You know what I mean by a collage? Remember those old things where you get out a piece of poster board and school, hey, Dale, nice to have you. You do this a thing where you put all these different pictures, of this is your life or whatever. It's a collage. Okay, so this is a video collage. Number one and number two under the issue of COVID are both collages. This one you will not be able to watch, I don't believe, because I couldn't either, and I have an account. I was just I was uninstalled, so I had to reinstall it. This is on Twitter, and it is Elon Musk himself, as far as I understand, probably one of his guys, hey Dave, nice to see you, who put this together, okay? And the only way I can explain this to you, it is all headlines, okay? Every single one of them, as far as I remember, is a headline. Now, the very first headline, the first 5 or 6, is talking about the jab being perfectly safe, 100% safe, which we know now is not only inaccurate, that once it was found that in some people's cases it was not safe and effective, not everybody, okay, but in some people's cases it was debilitating, myocarditis, heart failure, all kinds of things, miscarriage, whatever. Once that was discovered that it actually was creating that, then there wasn't an immediate pullback that continued on with 100%. So anyway, this shows the headlines in various media outlets, 100% effective, 100% safe. And then it goes down to 90. You get the gist. It goes down, down, down. 100%, then it's 90, then it's 70, and then it's, or 80, then 70, then 60, and it just keeps going down to where it says basically it's down to like 10%, 20%. In other words, as the truth came out, the question became, do we continue to say 100% and become liable for not telling the truth? And this is really what this comes down to. Because if a person who is wrong, intentionally or unintentionally, lied or made a mistake, is afraid of being humiliated or what have you, they will they will double down on that narrative unless they're discovered. Okay, and so in my opinion, the reason these same guys that says 100% of the first go down to 90, 80, 70, 60, way down to where it's, well, we can't even tell you if it's effective, is because of liability. It's not because of fear of being shamed so much as it is simple liability, insurance claims, millions of dollars in lawsuits, and so on. So this is the number 2. If you have nothing else you can watch, at least watch 1 and 2. Okay? It is stunning to see it in front of your eyes, in the corresponding dates. Same guys are saying 100%, go all the way down eventually to where it's, like we can't even tell you if it's safe or effective. Although there are some that are now same thing. The newest jab that came out, and again, I want to be clear, and I mean this sincerely. I don't believe they're safe. Personally, I do not believe they're safe. But if you do, thank God you still live in a country where you can choose. And part of the video, the first one that I said is the absolute must-see, is them telling you don't have a choice. Okay? You're a villain. You're killing other people, literally. And there wasn't just 1 or 2 people that said that. All right. Okay, and then number 3, cardiovascular deaths are increasing in UK. They were up 44% last year. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. That's a reader. And then number 4, only in today's world could the 2 things that we just shared, about the, the fear-mongering and the mocking and the trying to divide people. One newscaster even called it one world, two world. We who have been vaxxed, we're the one world people. You other guys, you're the two world people. You're the enemy. Hopefully we can put you in jail. I'm not exaggerating at all. Okay? So only in today's world, they just awarded the Nobel Prize to the people that created or helped create the jab. Okay? Only in today's world. After all the facts are coming out. Okay? And the facts have not all come out yet. Okay? But what has come out is sufficient. Okay? Only in today's world would they award people in light of the facts that are coming out. All right, so let's, I'm going to try to end up here pretty quickly. I just have a few other things. So some of you might have heard, I call this partisan polluted politics, okay? So New York Representative Democrat Jamal Brown, you've probably seen this. There are a lot of things on there. Okay, it is true that sometimes people make much out of little and little out of much. So did you catch that? People have a tendency to make much out of little or little out of much, depending on what view they're trying to establish in your mind. Okay, so this Representative Jamal from New York, so there was a hotly contested budget issue. The government was going to shut down. We're all going to perish, all of that stuff. You know, Republicans got it one way. Democrats don't got it that way. The Ukraine's involved, blah, blah. I'm not even going to go into it all, but here's the bottom line. Some guy who thought he would pull a fire alarm and try to stop, because what was happening at the time was they were trying to stop this bill from going through. Okay, so my issue is not the bill and all that, even though that's certainly what we're talking about, but I don't have time, was this dork, and now he's trying, and AOC and all these guys are coming back and saying, oh, it's just a mistake. You know what? It's amazing how people will lie to cover their tracks, no matter what. I mean, they could stick their finger in your eye and then turn around and say, that was not my finger. That was my evil twin. Oh, he's invisible. You know what I'm saying? So Everybody from grade school knows if you pull a fire alarm, the fire alarm goes off, okay? And so he's talking about, well, the door was locked and you know, so I only put that in there because it just shows you the nonsensical things people will do to have their way. Okay, hey Steve, hey Mikey, nice to have you both. All right, so again, a couple of you guys just coming on right now. I covered a couple of these that are absolute must-watches. Go back and listen and make sure you watch those. So Senator Dianne Feinstein passes at 90. May she rest in peace. I pray that God will have mercy on her. And so recently this happened, and this become a thing in the in the political arena, that you hang on until the bitter end. I mean, you rage against the dying of the light. You know, you could be 195 years old and barely able to talk, and yet they're going to wheel you in and like a puppet tell you what to vote for. It's just ridiculous. And I'm sorry. No disrespect to any individual that has health issues, including our president. It is ridiculous to do that. I don't care if you're the king of Siam. If you're incapacitated, you don't belong in the chair. It's not rocket science, okay? And it doesn't have anything to do with the person. It has to do with normalcy and common sense. All right. So no disrespect to her. We don't speak ill of the dead and so on. So she passed away, and pressure was put upon her because she was a representative of California, long standing. So Governor Newsom, it was followed upon him to go ahead and put in her replacement, for Dianne Feinstein. And the pressure was on, who are you going to put in? Of course, if you're a leftist, liberal, crazy embracer, the question isn't who's the most qualified. Nobody ever asked that. The question is, are they a person of a certain race? Are they a certain ethnicity? Are they a certain gender? Are they are they from a poverty background? Everything other than how qualified are they? And so this one woman, I don't know really anything about her, but number 2 and number 3 are Gavin Newsom replaces Feinstein with a Maryland activist by the name of LaFonza Butler, woman of color, lesbian, activist, pro-abortion activist. I mean, like a poster child for the left, basically. And so it appears that she was quickly put into this position. She's not a resident of California. She's a resident of Maryland. One of the very first things they did was erase her name off of all of her documents, or not her name, but her state that she actually lives in. So she doesn't actually represent the people of California. She's not a resident. You kind of have to live in the place you're going to represent, okay? If you're going to represent Oregonians, you need to live in Oregon. If you're going to represent Californians, you need to live in California. So anyway, in other words, one more politically motivated appointment that has more to do with her activism than it does to do with her qualifications as a political leader. And thank you, Sister Heather, for helping me out with that one. All right, and number 4 is a little bit more on her. And again, understand all of these things that I put on there, you have to do your own research on this stuff. I can't, I'm not like the guys who spend 8 hours a day. I could list their names, you know who they are, the Dan Bonginos and the, I am a pick your favorite, whoever. That's literally, this is their whole life. This is what they feel like they're calling. And I don't have 8 hours a day to do this every day. I just don't. I have a few hours. So anyway, I expect you to do your own research on these things if you want to go deeper. So number 4 is a little bit more about her. Number 5, and I'm almost done here. I liked this because there's a woman by the name of Braverman. Braverman is how it's spelled. Braverman. And she, too, is a woman of color, and she has stood up in the UK. She is the Home Secretary. I think that would be similar to, I don't know, I don't want to define her position because I'm not that familiar with it. But she stands up in the midst of her peers and her associates in Congress, not Congress, but whatever, and basically gives a very short little speech. At least the link is short, where she says multiculturalism. Now listen to a couple $25 words here so you don't miss them. Let me quote what she says. Uncontrolled, okay, get the word, uncontrolled migration, and inadequate integration of those migrants, okay? Uncontrolled immigration and inadequate integration of them, and a misguided dogma of multiculturalism has proven a toxic combination for Europe over the last few decades. Now, let me just tear that apart for you, because her video is short, but I want you to hear what she's saying. She's saying, whatever our reason was for swinging wide our borders and opening the door to everybody who wanted to come here, whatever, compassion, the idea that people are suffering, whatever the reason was, it's just, and I used this illustration today, and you need to remember, because I think it's a good one. I live in a home, okay? There's room for half a dozen of us here. If we got a bunch of people that were suddenly thrown out of their homes, tornado hit or something around the city, we could only accommodate so many people. It has to do with space, it has to do with resources, it's math. It's not rocket science. We could not, let's say our whole neighborhood of thousands and thousands of people were annihilated, and every one of them needed food, and every one of them needed a shelter. It would be impossible to go, we just love everybody so much, we're going to open. And I know so many people, you don't even want to think about it. It's like too much to even have to reason this out. We just know that, well, blah, 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 and let's just keep it simple. It's not simple, okay? Our countries, the United States, I actually believe, I heard the Lord talk to me the other day about this. I was on to something else. He'll do this all the time. And say, Jim, the United States of America cannot hold 6 billion people, which is a smaller number than it's on the planet. We're closer to 8 billion, so I don't know why I said 6, but he said, Jim, the United States, Lucy, we were supposed to keep the dogs downstairs. Don't. Okay, sorry. Yeah, he said, Jim, the United States of America cannot hold 6 billion people. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know that. Why are you telling me that? You get what I'm saying? There is a reason we have border policy. So this woman says uncontrolled migration or immigration, okay, just what's happening right now in our country. See, we haven't experienced what the UK has experienced. We're a few years away from it, maybe not that long, okay? But their country is being devastated right now. Some of our cities are being devastated. New York City is being overrun and devastated right now. It could come to a literal collapse of the ability of human services to govern. When I say human services, I mean in a broad sense, like the police force, like the political realm, like law enforcement, all of that, hospitals. You can overwhelm a system. It's not rocket science. It's like the third time I've said that. It's so frustrating sometimes. I understand compassion. I really do. I believe that is something Jesus tells us to embrace. But you cannot do it for everyone. You do it for as many as you can. All right, so uncontrolled immigration, last time I'll say it, and inadequate integration. So not only, she's saying in her country, not only did we just have unlimited migration, but we had inadequate, okay, not functional, you have to integrate people. This is what the United States has always did. We did allow people to come in. We've never said, stay away, we don't want you, we're ethnic racist. No, we allowed people, but we said, okay, there are some conditions. Just like in my home. You're going to come live in my home. You don't get to smoke weed. You don't get to get fallen down drunk. You don't get to watch porn. I've got issues. You've got to, okay? There are parameters, okay? And we've done that in the past, but we're not doing that now. Can you imagine the danger in your own home if you threw off your parameters? She's saying, now we sowed the wind, now we're reaping the whirlwind, okay? And last thing, a misguided dogma. Dogma simply means a doctrine, a teaching, a philosophy. An idealism was misguided. The misguided notion of multiculturalism. Now, this is a little wonky because I do believe that cultures can mesh together. Okay, they have in our country, bring me your poor huddled masses and so on and so on. But that's not carte blanche. In order to have multiculturals living under the same, roof, a national roof, you have to be able to honor one another's culture while not demonizing and prohibiting and having one culture rise up and say, we're going to overcome and overtake and disrespect your culture. That is a challenge. That's a big deal. Okay, I hope you guys are following me. I know this isn't your typical, stuff, but it's important. So watchers, last 2, 3 here, whatever. I'm trying to hurry. Some of you have heard RFK Jr. It's very likely that he's going to run on an independent ticket. It's going to be a really interesting month and a half as we move towards the elections. Don't be surprised if something super, super radical happens. Prepare your heart. Prepare yourself mentally. If something super crisis happens, don't freak out, okay? One of the reasons that God himself warned people so many times in the Bible is not because he was ticked off, but because he wanted them to be mentally and physically and spiritually prepared and not overwhelmed. You will be overwhelmed unless you are cognizant and prepared. So what does that do? Well, JFK is going to run the independent. He could win. I don't know. Trump could win. I don't know. I haven't heard from the Lord on it. I probably wouldn't say anything if I did. But because of the elections, you're liable to see some really crazy stuff happen. So, number one, now some of you know who J.C. Spears is, or J.P. Spears. Funny guy. Thank you, Isaiah, for sending this one to me. He's a comedian, and he gets a little crass sometimes. Thankfully, this one I don't think is too off color. But he really does an excellent job exposing the promulgation of a divided racial culture through the media. Now, that may not sound very interesting to you, but you should watch it. And he does it without becoming a race baiter himself. He's saying, no, here's really what's happened. And again, this is one of those, it's kind of like a vocal collage of what's happened. And you see a lot of these things. So that's really good. And he does it in a way that is not offensive, I don't believe, but it's humorous. All right, so it's good to have a little humor. Number two is a thing about, again, this is a highly qualified professional who has worked in the industry that she's talking about. Okay, that's all I'll tell you right now. I've said a couple things recently about our food and what they're attempting to do as far as controlling that. We can make it better. There literally are people that believe they can control you and your behavior through your food. Okay, so this lady's talking about that. She's not a whack job. She's a person who literally was doing it. Okay, she was involved with it and so on. So just watch that. Number two, and then number three is just a short video. What I mentioned before about New York and what's happening right now. You'll just have to watch that when I'm out of time. And last one, October 4th. I'm going to take a couple minutes on this, but just a couple minutes. So I want to start out by saying, I put a question mark in the title box at the very beginning. What is about to happen on October 4th? Well, let me tell you what is true, what we know for sure, and then what is possible, okay? And again, I can't go real deep. There's a lot of speculation. Now the video, I think I put 2 videos on here, or 3. Okay. There's a lot of speculation about this. What we do know is that FEMA, in cooperation, in partnership with the FCC, the Federal Communications something, FCC, the guys that used to keep profanity off your TV, who apparently don't care about that anymore, they're going to conduct an emergency broadcast test. Now, the reason this test is different, now this is what they're saying. And the very first link, I think, is them. Okay, it is showing them saying it. So it's not a conspiracy theory that they're going to be doing it. Now, it might be a conspiracy why they're going to do it, and I'm going to leave that up to you because I am not 100% sure, and I don't put it out here unless I'm at least 90% sure. Okay, so they're going to do it. What's going to happen is October 4th, which is tomorrow. I hope you're watching this today. Tomorrow at 2:22 Eastern Time. It's interesting, 2:22 Eastern Time. So those of you on the West Coast, it'd be 3 hours earlier. So that would be 11:22. Is that right? And I think it's going to go on for like 30 minutes. Normally, when you get a test of the emergency broadcasting, it's like for 10 seconds. Beep, and then this was a test of the emergency broadcast system, blah, blah, blah. This one is purportedly, I'm not sure about this, supposed to go on for like 30 minutes. And what I understand from what I've read is it is a test, all these 5G towers that they've put up, they're going to try to make sure they're all interconnected and that everybody will receive this emergency broadcast. Now, what's different about it, according to what I've read, okay, hope it's accurate, is that it will not just be your phone. It used to be initially it was just your TV and your radio, because those were the only two forms of communication, okay? We didn't have. Anybody remember we didn't have cell phones? Okay, this time it's going to come through your TV, it's going to come through your phone, it's going to come through the radio, your laptop, any electronic device, in my understanding, it's going to come through. Now, that's where the facts, as far as I know, and you may know more than me, please don't come on and tell me everything you think, okay? That's not what I want to do at this time. There are people that are saying all the way from it's a kill switch, all the way to where it's a nothing burger, and everything in between, okay? There's some stuff about graphene oxide that is supposed to have been in the vaccines that is triggered in a very negative effect by frequencies and all of this. I don't want to poo-poo that because I don't know. It's okay to say you don't know. Here's what I do know. I'm going to turn my phone off, okay? So the first link here is FCC. The second one is a guy named Buster Brown who kind of, he doesn't completely make light of it, but he kind of does and tries to bring some humor in and then basically saying, I'm going to be out fishing. A lot of people are saying it will have a physiological effect on human beings. I don't know. I'm not going to take the chance. I'm not afraid. And I think a lot of these things are there in order to create fear. And I believe it's very likely that this is in order to see whether or not they can, issue warnings and whatever. There's a new health crisis, or, Russia's dropped a nuclear bomb, whatever. So it's not that there might not be even some good that could come out of it, okay? As it is in most things, there's always a good and a negative, okay? But we don't know. And when I don't know something, I tend to err. If I'm going to err, I would like to err on the side of caution. So yours truly, Jim Moore, my time here in Texas is not 11:22. No, wait. Did I say that right? 10. Yeah, 11. Mine is like 12. I don't know. You have to figure it out. 2:22 Eastern, however that works out for you. So I'm going to be turning off my phone. I'm probably going to turn it off for about an hour, TV and all that. I'm not going to subject myself to something that might be happening, or even if it's not happening. I can afford to go without my phone for an hour and pray. So I'm probably going to use that hour to pray. Maybe not. All right, and then the third one, I really hesitated putting this one on there because the third one is the all-out, here's what's going to happen, megahertz, and again, God forgive me, I believe in doing your own research, but don't just be fearful and don't just accept everything everybody says as fact, okay? But I do think it's important to listen. So I make no claim to the accuracy of that last one. Somebody said, Jim, you shouldn't put it on then. I know, but I just kind of felt led to do it this time. So, all right, that's it. 3 of these must-watches. If you at all can, they're all short, watch them all. But the one in the middle, that's the most important one. So anyway, God bless you guys. Be encouraged. God is on the throne. We win because he wins. There's no way you can lose if you keep your hand in him. So be faithful, Lord. Bless your people. Help your people to be encouraged and happy and joyful in the midst of conflict and crisis. Let us be filled with the joy of the Lord, we pray. And let us be safe, and let us be intelligent, and let us be full of faith. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, God bless you. Thanks for hanging out with me. And Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll see you tomorrow again on Wednesday for words of encouragement. So God bless you. Give yourself permission to have